Welcome back, everyone, to episode 2 of Authentic Aim. As always, I'm your host, G. And then,
Your boy Eddie, how y'all doing? How you feeling, bro?
man, I'm good. It was another one we talked about. It was a crazy week, sure,
Yeah,
for both of us. I think today is a new day. I'm feeling thankful and grateful, and just I know we talked about before, not carrying negative energy into new moments because you can die at any time. And so
for
I'm just
sure.
here enjoying this with you, man. How about yourself?
I'm good, bro. I've been thinking about the dying at any moment this whole week. Actually, I was talking to a homie, and kind of just talking about, I guess, our goals for the year and stuff. And I mean, it was like a 2-hour conversation we had, but just kind of thinking about the fact that I could hop in my car anytime and could be my moment, and that's kind of extreme. I know some people would tell me that that's a little extreme, but I think that you gotta live every day like there's not gonna be another one because time might pass you by. So, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's good. That's dope. Glad we both could be here and
sure.
make it and be allowed to share this message with these people. So today's topic, of course, we're talking about overthinking.
Yes, sir.
Something you and I are both very familiar with.
Yeah.
I'd probably go as far as to say call myself a chronic overthinker. So yeah, man, how about you share a little bit about your experience with, I guess, your mental mindset and processes?
Yeah, I mean, you say chronic overthinker, bro. I've been an overthinker my whole life since I was little, probably. In terms of why, I haven't really figured that part out yet, but I think that it has to do with the way that I was raised, potentially, and also just my environment.
Actually, hold on. Don't even want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Before we even dive into it, let's define overthinking for people, because I think
Okay.
I would probably go as far as to say that not everyone has a good understanding of what it means. So what is your definition of overthinking?
What is my definition? To be honest, trying to come up with a definition, I'm gonna be overthinking it. But I would say my definition of overthinking is really just you have all these scenarios, you have all these potential outcomes in your head if you do make a decision.
Right.
And then that can ultimately lead to you not making a decision or you thinking that you made the wrong one, depending on the outcome. So that's kind of where my head's at with the definition. I don't want to complicate it too much, but what would you say for you is?
I would say overthinking is where you are running through a bunch of different options and ideas to the point that you can't even move. Where you disable yourself, like where you can't make a single decision at all. I think that's the difference between someone who's cautious, right? Where you are constantly carefully assessing different, decisions you have to make, and that's totally fine. And you end up making a decision because you want to make sure you're making the right one. But an overthinker, we will think about everything to the tiniest of detail, and then we just be stuck. Like we did all this work and we still aren't any closer to a decision.
Right.
So that would be my definition of overthinking. But go ahead and now that we got the definition out the way, now kind of explain a little bit of your.
Nah, bro, you broke that down pretty well. I think that like I was saying, for me, I think my overthinking it stems from, like, as a kid, just kind of the family I come from, and also my parents, and just, I guess, the pressure, all that stuff. It adds up, and then not trusting yourself with certain decisions. Like you said, I love how you described it as having so many thoughts and things running through your head that you can't move.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think environment plays a huge role, but also just overcoming overthinking, I think, can be difficult, and it's important to kind of break down the root of why you think so much and why it's not necessarily a bad thing, like innately. I just think that, like you said, the bad part is when it becomes it's like it gets in your way. It prevents you from moving, like you said. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I would, man. You talked about getting to the root of it.
Yeah.
And that's again, just like even we were talking about reinventing ourselves last week, that's the toughest part. Because for a lot of us, we probably don't ever, like, we're never conscious to when roots are being planted for certain things. Yeah. Like, I think it's not until tough situations arise to where you actually have to think about those things. And so when I go back and review, hey, why am I an overthinker? I don't even know if I can tell anyone, really. Like, it happened subconsciously, like somehow, some way I was just
Right.
constantly playing different ideas and thoughts in my head. And if I had to think about where it even stemmed from or where it started, probably going back to when I skipped the 6th grade, which is a big accomplishment. Like a lot of people, oh, like you did that. Yeah, it's cool, but I don't think you see the repercussions of that decision because one, I was already the youngest in my class, right? When I was in the 5th grade. Now I'm leaving all of them to go when I'm even younger than everyone else. And so you're trying to find your way. I would say fit in, but it's not even about fitting in. It's just about feeling confident in yourself because you're younger than everybody else. So you constantly think about, oh, what is this person, what are they thinking when they see me do this? Or am I doing this the right way? That's not how everybody else is doing it. And so, yeah, it's trying to establish those different thoughts and ideas in your head. So if I had to talk about my own personal journey, where I think it started probably was, the 6th grade. But let me ask you this. How has overthinking impacted your life? Because I think it almost could go into the topic of mental health.
Oh, yeah.
Because if there's a lot of negative thoughts going through your head, you could easily turn this into depression or into something else. So how is overthinking impacted your life? Because I think a lot of people will probably just tell you, just go do it. Like, stop thinking. Like, it ain't that simple. You legit are almost stuck in your own head and you're trying to create a way out. So
for sure. Well, I think so. One thing that you hit on, bro, was so back when you were in 6th grade, kind of like, you're doing something and you're wondering how someone else feels about it or is looking at you or seeing you. And so I think, for me, it goes both ways. It's impacted me negatively several times just because, like you said, when you're in a spot mentally where everything is kind of just, you can't make a decision, you can't move that way. So, and we've talked about it a little bit before, but when I used to play basketball, and I always come back to basketball just because I feel like it was such a big part of my life. It still is. It's just not. It's not a priority anymore. Right. But since I was little, it was my whole life, man. Outside of school, family. But as a basketball player, I used to get so caught up in how I was looking to other people on the court. If I take this shot, you could break it down to the smallest piece that some people might be like, yo, what's wrong with you kind of thing, why do you think that way? And kind of how you said is, I'm not exactly sure either why I think that way or why I was thinking that way at the time. So I'd say it has impacted me negatively in the sense of it killed my confidence at times, especially as a hooper. So like I said, man, there was plenty of times where I felt like you just said, you could just do it. Like, oh, just shoot the ball, just do this, or just dribble the ball. But again, at the time, it was like I didn't understand because I was so caught up in, oh, well, if I, make this mistake or dribble here or make this turnover, and that's basketball terms, but even outside of basketball, it translated into the classroom. It translated into, funny enough, we were younger, whatever, but, with relationships, partners, friends, it translates into everything you do because Absolutely. It becomes so big a piece of your identity. But now to flip that, right? And I can't remember where I learned this, but it's like overthinking can actually be your greatest superpower. So you're overthinking for a reason. Now, whether that reason is good or bad. So for example, say as a basketball player, I'm overthinking oh, should I take this shot or should I take X amount of shots? It's like, okay, well, if I take the shot, and I'm thinking of the worst possible outcome. Oh, coach gonna bench me, whatever. But it's like, if I will never know the outcome. I'll never understand. I'll never know what's on the other side. Yeah. So you can use overthinking as a superpower almost because, you're gonna be thinking about all these outcomes, but taking action with the overthinking, it's like the overthinking is still there, but you're taking actions to improve positively, to move forward. Like you said, to not be stuck. So I think it goes both ways. It's just about how you see it and how you use it.
Okay, so I want you to elaborate a bit more because I've never thought about overthinking as a superpower. That's never been something that has crossed my mind because I guess I've always thought about simplifying things because I think with overthinking, you're adding more steps. And, right. You just want to get from point A to point B as simple as possible. So I never thought about overthinking as a superpower. So let me ask, where did you get that idea from? And where did, that I guess kind of help you and how have you used that as your own superpower?
For sure. So it's interesting, bro. he's a streamer and he does like several. He does different content. His name is I think his full name is Taekwon.
Okay.
And his handle I think is Taekwondo or something like that. I came across him like maybe a year ago, and he streams different content. He's into spirituality, health and wellness. He does some content too with like relationship stuff. Okay. Like I think he does. He's like a dating coach. He does all these things, right? But it was one video that he talked a lot about how you can use overthinking as a superpower, like I was just explaining.
Yeah.
And his thought process is you're overthinking typically for a reason. For example, let's say, you know, I want to get in the gym, I want to get stronger, I want to get bigger, but I don't know where to start. So I'm gonna be overthinking everything. I'm talking meal plan, I'm talking fitness plan, like everything. But it's like you can use that overthinking to make your plan so detailed and so, and not complicated necessarily, but just so detailed that it allows you to see the final destination more clearly, if that makes sense. Now, and not to cut you off, but if you see overthinking and you're having all these thoughts and you don't take the action, you stay stuck. Yeah, that can. So it's actually two different routes. It's that route where you stay stuck, and that overthinking can turn into self-hate. Which I think gets a little deeper than we've gotten so far. But you can also turn that overthinking into taking actions, and it's not necessarily the most complicated actions. It's just, like I said, like you're thinking so detailed because you want to get from point A to point B, but you might not know how to, or you might think there's 10 different ways when in reality it's like you can list out all those ways, but you just pick one of them and then you move forward from there. Versus the other side of that.
Okay, so using overthinking as a way to essentially plan out what you're gonna do.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So like if you stressing about the 5 different options you got, write down the 5 different options and then try one, you know, review it, what happened, and then try something else.
Exactly. There you go. And that's a piece that I left out because I was going on a tangent a little bit.
Yeah,
but you take the action, you reflect, you ask yourself, did this work? Was this kind of taking me towards the path that I want to be on, or do I need to change it? And that's okay. That's the whole take action, reflect. If it worked, then that reward should be coming. If it didn't work, then you go back, but you take another action. So each time you're taking action, you're still overthinking potentially, but you're taking action each time. That's the biggest thing. So
okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense because I think I've reached a similar conclusion at one point. Yeah. Except I think, like I said, my answer was always to simplify it because I was always overcomplicating things. Like, I'm worried about this and that. So my approach was more so, okay, so I'm overthinking about something, whatever the topic is. What is my goal? Like, right? Like you just said, what am I trying to get to? Right. And in the fitness industry, when I did my internship for my kinesiology degree, and for those who don't know, kinesiology is human movement. That's all it is. And so he would tell us, he was like, the best fitness trainers, they start at the end. Okay. So you write about what you want your client to be able to do when this is all said and done, and then you work backwards. So then you work all the way to the beginning, like, all right, how would I start this? Oh, since I want to get here, like I want them to have a 6-pack. I know when they have a 6-pack, they should be able to do ABC. So how do I get to ABC? And then you're working backwards step by step. Until you get to point 1, it's like, oh, well, that's the plan. Yeah. And then, but part of it too is like you have to actually go do it because he gave an experience where he was talking about, well, someone would write a workout and then they would just have people go do it. And then we see people struggling and they didn't know why. But if you go do it yourself, you can be like, oh, they're doing too many pull exercises one after another. So their forearms are tired. They can't do it. I have to be able to supplement this for something else or whatever. So I guess from my take, I've always thought about, okay, I'm overthinking about this business. I want to be successful. I know that's the plan. Right. Okay. Or I'm overthinking about this product. I want to perfect it. If that's my goal, let's figure out step 1. We don't care about step 21. Like, let's figure out step 1. I'm over here overthinking A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and when I'm still at A. Like, let's do A, and when you perfect A, you can move on to B. Because it doesn't matter if you have a plan for A to Z. You still got to get through A. You still got to get through A. And so what you said is pretty much on point. I just never thought about it as a superpower. I was always just like, let's simplify this.
No, for sure. And I mean, bro, I think too, I don't think that what you're saying goes against like utilizing overthinking as a superpower.
I honestly think they're the same thing.
Yeah, I think they tie in like, And again, that could even be overthinking in itself. Is like you try to break things down, you try to simplify them so much so that you don't take action or you don't move.
Right.
So that happens. But what I was gonna say is there's this book. It's called Atomic Habits. I don't know if you heard of it.
I have not.
It's a pretty popular book. I just started reading it, but what the author talks a lot about is like instead of focusing so much on outcomes and even the goals that you have for yourself. So let's say, for example, right, I'm a skinny dude, you know what I'm saying? I want to put on 20 pounds of muscle. I want to get to 200 pounds, whatever in the gym. I have these goals.
Yeah.
It's like, that's cool. And I can have that like in my head. But instead of having that at the forefront all the time and like each time I go to a workout, I got to get to 200. Instead of that, get rid of the goal and focus on your systems is what he talks about.
Okay.
So your system, for example, is, okay, what time am I going to the gym? What am I eating before the gym? You know, what exercise am I doing in the gym? But it's not focused so much so on just the one outcome. Because the more you do that, the more pressure you put on yourself, the more that those self-doubt, that overthinking comes into play. Yeah. So I think that's a big thing for me too, is having systems that kind of set you up for success almost. It's not guaranteed, but it puts you in a better spot versus just saying, okay, you know, I'm gonna go to the gym today. And because, you know, I've done this too. It's like I'll go to the gym for a few weeks consistently or even a few months. And it's like, I'm still not at the goal. Damn. And that's when I'm like, for some reason, I'm looking back on all that progress, but I'm looking back at it negatively because I haven't hit that one goal yet. Yeah. But in reality, it's like, okay, I was 170 a month ago. Now I'm 180. So it's like you got to make progress, but you have to have systems that set you up versus focusing so much on just the goal, like hitting the goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It does for sure. What I would say is I've heard something similar to this is he's not a YouTuber, he's a businessman who happens to have a YouTube channel. His name is Myron Golden. And so he essentially is a business coach now, but he runs and operates all these different businesses. A lot of his theology is even based in the Bible, like he'll always relate it to. And so there was one thing he had said in a video I watched, and he was talking about stop focusing so much on goals. I don't write goals. I write objectives. I was like, input objectives. Okay, interesting. And he goes on to explain that the reason he writes input objectives is because I can control that. Sometimes you write goals that you can't control. We want to hit $100,000 in 6 months. You can't control how much product sells, but I know that if I do A, B, C, D, like I do these input objectives, then that's going to set me up for the best chance to hit that goal. And so like if let's say certain factors come into play that are out of your control and completely change the trajectory or path that you were on, then it's like, well, I can't fault myself because I at least hit everything that I wanted to do, and that's just out of my hands type thing. So yeah, no, I think that ties in very, very good because I know I've heard something similar. Okay, so let me ask this. What's the biggest event that's happened in your life where you say like overthinking is at the root of it? Because you're a different person now, obviously. I don't know if overthinking still plays a factor in your life, but like, give us an event where it was like, yeah, I overthought that a lot. And because I think for a lot of us, we always almost sometimes expect the worst. Yeah. And it wasn't even that bad for real. And like, so how would you go about that almost same event today, who you are?
That's a good question, man. I mean, I think throughout my life, I have a handful of instances where, you know, I was just putting the overthinking, I guess, it just put so much pressure on me going into it that I almost like it. So I don't know if you heard, like when you overthink so much or when you are not, when you're kind of having that self-doubt or in your head so much that you can actually like sabotage yourself. Like not even purposely, but like for example, right? Let's say I know I got to get up at 8 for an event or something, and I know that, you know, I know I should get good rest. I know I should you know, put the phone away, whatever it is, like certain little things. Yeah. But I end up going to sleep at like 2 a.m, and I end up waking up late, and now I'm in a rush, and now I'm stressing out. But in terms of an event in my life where I guess that overthinking almost caused me to self-sabotage, I would say, again, I bring it back to basketball. There was countless times like in basketball, but specifically,
it doesn't have to be let me make it easier. It doesn't have to be a specific event, but just like I don't know if you can give an example where it was like, all right, this was a game plan and this would happen. But like if I had to address that today, this is how I would go about it almost.
I see. Honestly, I go back to my when I graduated high school, and that was 2020. COVID had just kind of started, like the few months before I graduated. And my whole plan was like, you know what? I'm going to get my 4-year degree and I'm going to get a career and I'm going to be super raw with this one. But I went into freshman year and I ended up failing 3 classes, bro. Yeah. And it was, so a lot happened, but my whole thought process with that too was when that happened, I was like, damn, you know, like it was kind of a wake up call, but I was like, damn, that's when the overthinking kicked in. I was like, I don't know if I can do this college stuff. I don't know if, you know, because I was taking like 5-6 classes. Like, I don't know if next semester I come back and I only take 3 classes, you know, I'm a failure and this and that. And just started having all these thoughts. But it's like, I ended up taking the 3 classes. I worked on the side. And little did I know, like, during that whole time, I'm stressing because I'm like, you know, I'm like, damn, I'm only taking however many credits. And I don't, like I said, man, I'm not doing as much as I should. But 6 months pass. Pass the classes, get good grades, end up doing my job, end up finding some opportunities for myself. And it's like that whole process, I was stressing myself out really because I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not, you know, and again, it goes back to that overthinking piece. It's like at the end of those 6 months, I realized that the progress I just made for myself was actually monumental. And that kind of kick-started like the whole just taking action and trusting in what you have going on. That was big for me at that time. So that's that's kind of one instance of that I could think of where, you know, like I was going into that semester, like I just failed 3 classes. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And then 6 months later, man, like I realized like it's all good, you know, everything's okay. What about you though? Like an instance in your life where.
That's a good question. Hold on. Let me check the camera.
Nah, you good.
We're good. Okay. All right.
You good.
What was I gonna say? Well, I'm gonna switch up the answer a bit, because of course the question we asked is about events. So I would say, and this probably would have been a better question earlier, but most of the time when I'm overthinking something, it's about something I really care about. So if let's say I really care about or like a girl, right? If I really like her, I'm gonna overthink like the text, I'm gonna overthink dating plans, I'm gonna overthink like whatever the case may be, because I want it to be so perfect. So I will probably even go as far as to say that overthinking is rooted in perfection, something that we can't even achieve. So for me personally, if I had to give like thoughts and what's different, we can go ahead and talk about basketball. So for me, my dad, I remember I used to play on this AAU team sponsored by Adidas, Team Zona. And I know you've heard of them before. Team Zona, and so, I only played AAU 1 year in my high school year, and that's when I picked up all my offers. And there was a point where at one session in California, I think I had like 30, and we were playing Belmont Shore. They were like a real popular team back in the day. I don't know if they still are now, but they were a big popular team back in those times, especially in California. And so I'm dropping 30. I'm talking about you couldn't guard me to save your life. And the next game, some of our star players aren't there. And I remember coach had a talk with me. He was like on me about it, like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing I just had a solid 15. He's like, no, you need to do more. And I could never understand that because I was so locked into trying to be perfect at what I was doing. And my dad was like, you're overthinking it. Like, you have to just go play the game. If you have an opportunity to go impact it, then impact it. And so like, now it took years to figure this out, but like now when I go hoop, like my brother had me in men's league or stuff when I was working to try out for the G League, I was just playing it by feel. Like, how does this feel to me? Do I want to actually take this shot? Nah, I don't feel right. I'm gonna pass it up. Because I think a lot of us, not even a lot of us, we know this saying that says, you know, look good, feel good, play good. And really, your body is such a amazing tool that it will figure out a lot of stuff for you. Like, we can feel when something ain't right. We can tell when we're a bit off. And that's important. Sometimes it's just trusting your body to do what it has to do. And so now when I go hoop, it's like, I'm chilling. And people will be like, I'll do something that's super simple to me. And they'll be like, ooh, like, I ain't think you can do that. I'm like, what happened? He's like, you didn't see what you just did? I'm like, nah, I just felt good. Like, I know what I can do. Like, I'm not overthinking, or I didn't predetermined my move when I did it. I saw something and it happened. So
Right.
I would feel like that's like the biggest difference to me now is I just let things happen so much. Like I kind of feel my way through it instead of always trying to think. Because sometimes your mind can get in the way and your body already knows how to go about it. So that's kind of one instance for me. So,
bro, one thing you just said that's funny, the predetermined.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and before I became, and I'm still working through it, you know, like I'm not where I want to be. I think we're always trying to work on ourselves. But when you say predetermined, that's how I used to be about everything. Texting the girl, as a basketball player, I mean, I'm talking everything, man. Like even before the game, I'm just envisioning myself like, you know, taking certain shots or doing certain things. And I'm like, oh, I shouldn't. When in reality, it's like now I go hoop. And granted, it's for fun. It's not like I'm running in pro AMs and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But
absolutely,
I'll go hoop and I'm not thinking about nothing. Like I'm just, as the game flows, then that's when I'm deciding this is what I'm going to do. This is the pass I'm going to make. This is a shot I'm going to take. So that predetermined stuff is, even with my other goals, like I was saying, like going to the gym, the physical well-being, it's like, we still good?
No, you're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Now you just stop. You might as well. What's
the? It's up towards the top. Like you see where that thing is anchored in the strap. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a red button right there.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's sweet. All right, perfect. Thank you.
But yeah, bro, just I swear to God, like literally anything you could think of, even waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth, I was trying to predetermine like minute by minute, like everything, bro. That's just how I was, especially as a young kid. Like, and now I'm just more so like even going to class, reading a book, whatever it is, going to play basketball, like anything. I'm more so, I'm not trying to think 2 minutes ahead of time, like how I'm gonna do this, how I'm gonna make this happen. Like, nah, it's just like being present, man. And just and all this stuff really just ties in. Like last week we talked about reinventing ourselves. Absolutely. And then now being present, the overthinking piece. And I like how you said though, like it also has to do with trusting in yourself. So it's like, okay, like I don't know, like if I'm gonna go play basketball, you know, and let's just say this, right? Because my thing too was when we would play teams that, you know, you've heard of them, or you're like, oh, they got some good kids on the team. You start thinking all these, like, you kind of have all these negative or like self-doubting thoughts. When in reality, it's like, dog, like, just play your game, see what happens, and adjust. You know what I'm saying? It's not the end of the world. You don't got to predetermine like everything ahead of time.
Yeah.
And that comes with, again, man, I think it just comes with taking the action. It's like I said earlier, how you put it. You said taking action, then reflecting on it. Was this good? Was this bad? Did it work? If it did work, cool. Then we do more of that. If it didn't work, we reevaluate, take a different action, and then reflect again. And it's just a process, but it's not, you got to get out of that mindset of like, it has to be this way. I got to be perfect, because you're not ever going to make progress that way, man. Yeah. And I'm speaking from experience. So
Absolutely. Yeah, you made a good point about being present. And I think one thing that's helped me a lot is just being intentional, right? Like, we do a lot of things subconsciously. We probably pick up our phones 50 times a day without ever really thinking about why we've been picking them up. But it's just like we got into the habit of picking it up, open up social media, open up Instagram, TikTok, whatever, or checking text, or even though we didn't hear a ring, we didn't hear a ding, it was just like, or we've gotten in the habit of checking our phones to see what time it is when we really don't care about what time it is. It's just like, let me pick up my phone. And so being more intentional too, I think is really important when you're trying to overcome this overthinking phase you're in.
Yeah.
Not even a phase, but just I guess almost reshaping yourself. I don't want to make it seem like overthinking is something that can be cured, like you just get over it and move on. It definitely is like a part of you, and you're trying to get out of your own mind, like I said. So let's say someone came and said, you know, just stop thinking. For us, it's not as simple as just stop thinking. We legit have to create a roadmap in our heads of how to get out. It's like a maze. Yeah. Like we're in there, we're trying to figure out how to get out. Even if it's as simple as like, just go do it. We have to make it make sense to ourselves to then get out of our own head. But yeah, no, being intentional is very important, because I think if we all remember that we're trying to maximize the time we have, I think got 24 hours in a day. I can't sit here and spend 2 hours just thinking about it. Go do it. I'm going to learn and try to experience. And I've eventually created a roadmap to where it's super easy, where I have those triggers, I'll say. It's easy for me to shut that down and get to what I'm trying to do because I've experienced it before, but that's just through working through it. Because I remember there was one point I was in college. I would tell myself this, it'd be really hard to go do. I couldn't just do it.
Yeah.
But now like I said, I've had practice. I've worked on it. Now I have that roadmap that I constantly, pull up and, there's the cure. I can go and go do what I got to do. So I would ask you, what do you have triggers? Like, are there certain triggers that will kind of jumpstart that overthinking for you?
I don't know if I have triggers. I'm sure I do. But for me, like personally, my overthinking just came a lot from, just, I'm gonna be honest, man, like my parents, like when I was coming up, there was like, I had certain, I guess you could say certain visions of who I envisioned myself to be.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like when there's other people that want different things for you than what you want for yourself. That's kind of, I guess, like when I start feeding into that and like giving that more power than giving the power to myself. That's, I guess I would call that a trigger, but, now, like at this point in life, I think there's triggers for me when things start going the way that I didn't want them to go. Like I'll do something and I didn't get the result I expected. That's a trigger for me, man. Like it could be very small.
Okay.
But yeah, that's something I've always worked through. Like I guess you would call that failure, right? If you attack something, the result that you wanted, it doesn't happen and it's the complete opposite. For me, that's a trigger. I'm gonna be honest, because now I'm like, damn, like, is this even viable? Is this even worth it? Did I, make the right decision? I start having all these thoughts, but it's like, now I'm at a point in life where I'm a little older, say a little wiser, so I don't let that, knock me off completely anymore like it used to. Like when I was younger, man, and I was playing basketball, I remember, let's see, my freshman year of high school. So, I was around a lot of good competition, a lot of good players, and I was playing good for a while, whatever, and I was consistent, but then I started having like this period where, I wasn't hitting shots and I felt like I wasn't playing real well. And that, I look back on that, I'm like, that period of time lasted way too long because I was stuck on the same self-doubting thoughts for that amount of time. It's like, if something goes wrong, like now, man, I'm like, in basketball, like I'll bring it back to basketball terms. It's like, if I miss a shot, like I used to trip over missing a shot. It's like now if I miss a shot, it's like, who cares, man? You know what I'm saying? Like get the next one. Like, so I think the time between the outcome, like if it goes like the way you didn't want to, and then how you respond to that, I think that's huge, but it's still a trigger for me. Like when I would call it failure, like when things don't go my way, that's a trigger for sure.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I would. It's hard to speak for everyone because I'm not trying to, but I would almost say there's a lot, if not all, overthinkers. I think it's all rooted in, again, perfection or trying to avoid something, a certain outcome. Yeah. And part of it is, I think what's helping with overthinking too is changing my relationship with failure. Kind of how you just said, like failure is kind of a trigger for you, not necessarily, but sort of. And so, for me personally, I've changed my relationship with it. It's like my best friend now. I welcome it. I almost go and run towards things that are uncomfortable, things that I know I'm probably not good at. And I tell myself like, yo, you fail, you gonna get better. It's just like and I know I mentioned this to you when we had lunch the first time after that job interview. How it's like a multiple choice test. We know we have X amount of answers, whether that's 5, 6. There's different ways to get from point A to point B. The only way you're going to know which one's the right one, if you don't actually know beforehand, is to go try them. Try it. It don't work out. Cross that out. Not that one. Oh, is this one? This one kind of worked. We'll see if there's one better. All right, now I got my perfect answer, and you move on with that. So changing a relationship with failure or whatever you're trying to avoid can also help you overcome overthinking as well, because it's just like that negative energy is causing you to be someone you don't want to be, or just impacting you in a way you don't want it to. And so the whole point is to be your best version of yourself anyways. Right. So, just go do that.
So I got a question for you, bro. I was thinking about this while you were speaking. Do you think that all high achievers, and before I continue the question, when I say high achievers, I don't necessarily mean like, you got 10 mil in the bank and you drive sports cars like we talked about last time. I just mean high achieving in the sense of you have goals and you're working towards them. Like you got big goals. Do you think that all high achievers are overthinkers?
I would say no.
No. Okay.
I think the reason I say that is because it's sort of what we talked about last time about where you asked me, can someone or you ask, there's people who say that people don't change, and there's people who, like us, trying to grow and change. And I told you, like, there's certain things as part of stuff that's not going to change, and then we have like the choice of how we're going to get there. That's always our choice. Right. I think it's the same thing with people who are high achievers, or even if you have goals or you have high standards for yourself, you always, like, we're not all going to go about it the same way. And so I think some people can easily let things go. I think some people have the natural gift to just pivot and change things up, and they're able to do that. So I don't want to say that everyone who has high standards for themselves or is pursuing excellence necessarily is an overthinker. I think that's just a I don't even want to say a gift, but it's just a trait that's in some of us that is just something we have to work through. Whereas in others, they can easily go do it.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I don't know, how do you feel?
So my thing is, like, hearing myself actually ask that question, I'm thinking about it now. I agree with what you're saying, but I also think that a lot of high achievers at one point in their life were overthinkers. That's what I believe. I could be wrong though, because what you just said too kind of debunks that. But my reasoning for that is because, like I said, when, for example, take, man, I'm not sure. You could take anybody who kind of not even necessarily came from nothing, but who made nothing into something, or who made something out of themselves. It's like, I feel like at a certain point, they were having all these thoughts of like, how am I going to get there? What do I need to do to get there? Like, they wanted more for themselves. And I feel like that in a way can be a form of overthinking.
But remember our definition, how we defined it earlier. We said there's a difference between someone who's cautious and someone who's an overthinker. So is going over your options and planning and stuff, is that truly an overthinker? I can't say that it is.
Not necessarily.
Even if you spend like a month on it, I can't say, oh, like you're overthinking this one decision because you're actually being precautious about what you're about to do next. I can't say that.
Yeah.
You have a plan. That is great. I'm glad you are, marking your X and O's and going about this the right way. So that's what we said before. If your thinking hinders your progress. But if in that month you're making progress to starting, and then you start, that wasn't truly you overthinking.
That's true.
The whole difference between an overthinker and someone who's cautious is, like I said, movement and progress. And so, let's say we could take any NBA player, any millionaire, whatever. If for them to be truly an overthinker at one point, they had to be stuck. And if they were never stuck, they were just constantly going through the ranks, and they were just growing. That's the natural process of growth. Like I one thing that's really helped me as of late, I used to meditate. I would encourage anyone who's overthinking to go write for sure. Because for me personally, I used to play like the same things over and over into my head. Right. So when I used to write them, I used to feel relieved because I got it out of my head. Now I can go look at it or review it or do whatever from there. Right. But one thing that's helped me now, because I used to try to meditate, and when I say meditate, I know there's like a whole process other people do. It really was just like breathing sessions. I would just breathe and try to like really calm myself down or slow my mind and alleviate it so I can go do what I need to do. And it wouldn't last very long, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever. I used to do that. Now my grandpa's back home and we've been taking walks. So I never thought that walks would be my thing, but I don't even bring my phone, bro. It's just me and him walking, we talking. And it's so calming because I start looking around and I start seeing like the sky. I start seeing all these different colors. I'm like, dang, bro, I'm blessed to see all these colors, and like life is so vibrant. And even it's before he got here, I started to humble myself and walk to the library, which is like 2.5 miles from the house. So I used to walk to the library and I started taking pictures, and that inspired me for different designs in my brand. But I say all that to say, on one walk that I went to recently, we passed this house and had this big old tree. It was an orange tree, I think. And I thought, bro, that's crazy. I literally thought to myself, how many people would that tree feed? Like, I'm seeing all the oranges on there. I'm like, how many people would that tree feed? Well, let's be cautious. Let's say 15. It could feed 15 people. 15 people can be fed from this tree, and it started as a seed that can fit in the palm of my hand. I can't even pick that tree up if I wanted to. There's a process to get to being able to be fruitful and multiply, as the Bible says, right? But we don't necessarily see the journey. We're so stuck on the outcome, which is what we talked about earlier. Stop focusing on the goal, focus on the input. Yeah. It's like over time, you took this little seed, you planted it to the ground, you nurtured it, you gave it water, you fed it sunlight, it soaked up all these nutrients and maximized what it was given, to now that it can be more than just a provider for itself, but for others. That's what we're all trying to get to. And so, yeah, like I said, for overthinkers, we stuck on the seed. Like, how is this seed gonna get this? Is this the right soil? Is this enough water? We stuck on all that. Whereas, like, again, someone who's cautious may have thought through that, and they're just doing it.
Right.
And so that's kind of like the difference.
I got you. No, I like that, bro. Do you think that? So the way we defined overthinking earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was you're having all these thoughts, things running through your head, and then it's preventing you from making basically, you're stuck.
Absolutely.
So do you think that in all cases of overthinking, with that definition, that self-hate always involves itself? Because the reason I ask is because when I look back on when I was like you had said, I mean, I think I am like a chronic overthinker. That's just a part of me.
Right.
But you can overcome the overthinking to make progress and to improve. But when I was stuck in that, when it kind of ran in my entire world, I didn't realize that I was actually kind of I was almost in a way, like little or big, I was always down on myself, and it was like I was chipping away at my own confidence. So I think that's where self-hate comes into play, because you're not seeing the progress, or you're not doing what you want to do, or whatever it is. So do you think that when you are an overthinker, self-hate always involves itself?
I don't know why I don't want to necessarily say self-hate.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a distrust in your abilities or something in the process.
Okay.
Like, you just don't have faith that it's going to work out.
Right.
I think, so I don't want to necessarily say that you're directing the hate towards yourself, but it can be towards anything. Like, you could say, all right, let me put it this way. So for me, I told you, so there's this girl in Florida. She may watch this, she may not. It doesn't matter. Right now we're just friends, and this is like me being super transparent. Right now we're just friends, and I truly believe that she's the one for me. Right? Like, I don't know why. It's a completely different feeling, but I truly believe she's the one for me. And so, because we're in this season of life where we're giving each other space to do things, I will sometimes like sit there and overthink, like, dang, is this cool if I text her, or if I call her, if I send this message? Right. And I'm so much thinking about like how she's going to receive it. And almost every time I've sent her something, it's been well received. But it's just like, it's not even self-hate about myself. It's me not trusting that she's going to understand where it's coming from. Because we may, as overthinkers, overthink how to say something or how to do something because we're worried about how someone's going to perceive it. Right. But at the end of the day, I think for me personally, something that I overcome is like, I'll live with the consequences. Yeah. I'm responsible for my actions and my words, but I'm not responsible for how somebody takes that. So if I do reach a point where I'm at conflict with someone over something I did, we can resolve that. Let's talk about it. Let me elaborate. Let me explain myself, because that's not how I meant it. And so, there's ways to resolve things, but we always are trying to get it right first try. So to answer your question, I feel like self-hate can, but I don't want to necessarily say it's just self-hate. It's just you have a negative connotation about something. You don't have faith that it's going to work out. So
okay. No, I hear you. Now that you're not talking about woman, you're talking about a woman, but yeah, I kind of want to. So one thing that when I want to say probably 19, 20, so not too long ago, I'm on YouTube, man, and I'm watching different, I won't even call them motivational speakers, just different figures, right? You got David Goggins, you have Tony Robbins, you have all these people who are doing great things and who have different stories, different backgrounds. And so somehow in the mix, I end up coming across what's known as red pill. I'm sure you heard of it when it comes to relationships and stuff, or maybe you haven't, which is even better.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
That's even better. So red pill community, man, is like, typically it's like a certain group of men, or just men in general, talking about how you're supposed to carry your life, how you're supposed to carry yourself with women, like with money, finances, like all this stuff, right? And I'm not going to sit here and say it's all surface level BS, because I don't think that's true. I think what they have to say is valid at points, but it's also like it gets extreme. It's like, for example, with women, like with relationships, it's like, oh, like, you got to be in a certain point at life, and you want to be around certain women, and you can only text them like this, and like just breaking it down, making it so black and white. Yeah. When it's like what you were just talking about really brings me back to reality and real life. It's like everyone is different. Everyone has different personalities. Everyone has different values. And it's like, I used to feed into that kind of stuff, especially with women. I'm not going to lie. Like I would watch these videos and be like, yo, like he's spinning facts and this and that. Yeah, exactly. And I look back on that, I'm like, bro, what the hell? Like, because I'm like, now I'm like, that's really not reality. That maybe that's their version of it.
Yeah.
And that's how they see it. But it's like, I've even changed my mindset on relationships, on women. It's like, I'm gonna be honest, man. Like in high school, even when I was a little younger, like I was always picturing like this certain kind of lifestyle. Like, oh, I want to come into contact with a bunch of women. But that's all like, you break that down, bro. And it's all, for the most part, it tends to be like a fake reality that you create or that other people create, that society creates, whatever. And so I say that to say, it's like, when I started opening up my mind more and seeing that, for example, these dudes, right? And it's no shade to them. It's no disrespect. It's like, most of these cats are single. They haven't been married. They haven't been in like serious relationships, whatever the case is. And I don't even know them personally.
Right.
So what they're telling me could be complete, like, you know what I'm saying? It could all be made up. But when you talk about, your friend in Florida, like, I think that's dope too, because like I said, somebody might look at that and say, oh, like, why are you wasting time on that? Or why are you investing time in that? But it's like, you come back down to like the actual like men and women instead of looking at it as men versus women.
Right.
Like, everyone has their own, I guess, their own definition of what it means to be in a relationship, what it means to be friends, like all this stuff that it's like, I started seeing all that black and white stuff. Like, like I said, they call a red pill community. And I was just like, for me, at first I thought like, oh, like this is a good way to think because it's so, it's almost like a routine, man, you know? But then I started realizing like this actually, it's forcing me to look at women and also just look at relationships in a way that's so confined and so unrealistic for me that I just got sick and tired of listening to that. So I was like, you know what? Like I said, man, like in high school too, like I'm always hearing like, oh, like you don't need a girlfriend or you don't need to be in a serious relationship. Like, and that might be somebody's mindset. And I'm not saying you need those things to be happy, but I'm saying like, there's also... another thing that the red pill community talks about is how all women kind of are the same to a certain extent. How, they think like this and they're playing you like that. And nah, fam, in reality, that's the women that there's a certain group. Just like on the flip side, like there's certain men, but it's like you cannot confine like people to such a limited, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a cage, I guess. So you can't confine them. So no, I really like what you were saying just now, like about how the woman in Florida, you know what I'm saying? Like it's well received when you guys talk, like it's good energy.
Yeah.
And I say that to say, because that's all that matters. That's between you and her.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All that other stuff is like, you put that off to the side and you live your life. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know why I thought of the red pill community, but I just felt the need to bring that up because I think people... And like I said, I've been one of those guys, man, where you just kind of, you make things black and white and you start seeing relationships, women. You almost start objectifying everything, like the women, but then everything else, relationships, everything. And it's like, you realize that that's not really reality. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
honestly, I think for whatever reason you brought it up, I think it's good that you mention that because it's almost the flip side of overthinking. Like there's also something known as oversimplifying things. Simplifying to the point where you are disregarding certain factors that are very important or significant in whatever the case may be. And that's something that neither one of us even mentioned when we were like pre-gaming this podcast or this episode or thinking of, like neither one of us thought about that. So I think it's really good that you brought it up. But yeah, no, even I'll mention the relationship real quick. Like with me and her, I would say I always thought it was crazy. I'm not trying to make this about relationships, but I'm just gonna wrap this up. So like with me and her, I never thought that I would find someone like her. Like it's a completely different energy from start to beginning. And it's weird because I've heard people say this, but it's like when bro, Like I always thought that I was gonna have to settle. Like at some point I was gonna find a girl who was like, she was real cool. She wasn't perfect, but it was like, all right, we gonna make it work, right? Like I'll have to settle with this. Cause I never thought there was gonna be somebody who was perfect for me until I met her, and it was like been easy. Now, is everything perfect all the time? No. Like sometimes, I'll be mad, she'll be mad, whatever.
Sure.
But it's just like, that's a completely different energy where it's like I can't afford to lose that, cause it feels like. Not necessarily I'm not a complete person without her because I am complete. I worked on myself and stuff, but it's just like I want to do life with her for the rest of as long as I'm alive. And so as the Bible says, like man or woman was taken from man's rib. I feel like she was taken from my rib. Like I really do believe that. But anyways, the reason I said this is because there was a video I watched a little minute ago, and it was this dude's a pastor. I don't remember where, because I only ever see him on like his content on, I think it was like TikTok or something.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the handle or nothing. But he had said one time, he said that he was dating his now wife, I believe.
Yeah.
And when they were dating, they didn't tell nobody. They kept it between themselves, because he's like, a relationship is like concrete. You got to pour it, you got to mix it, and you got to lay it. If you allow people to step on it while it's still wet, you can get all the little imprints and imperfections in your relationship. He's like, so we waited until it was solidified, where we had figured it out between ourselves. So when people now come and give their opinion, it doesn't impact us. There's nothing you can do. So, yeah. But to your point, like I said, I do think there's an issue if you do oversimplify things, like you said, to put everyone in a box. Right. But also there's like we're talking about now, there is overthinking. So what would you, since you mentioned it, what would you recommend for someone to not oversimplify something, but also to avoid overthinking too?
I think it all, and I'll kind of answer how to like get to the point, but right. You have to be able to think for yourself, like truly in all endeavors. You have to question it from, like, for example, right? I want to start a fitness plan, hundreds of thousands of, on the internet. I look up meal plans. I look up fitness instructors. I look up YouTube videos. But at the end of the day, it's like, I have to be able to decipher for myself, okay, what do I believe in, or what kind of like attracts me the most? And then I'm going to go try that. And so I think that it's like a muscle, man. It's like your brain, like you have to build the independent thinking up and up and up. And what you just said about the concrete, like I think that's such a perfect, like, if it's still wet and people are just stepping on it, getting all these prints, it's like that will almost I don't want to say almost, like it tends to come in between people, and it tends to influence people to make decisions that might have not been the right one, especially with the relationship. It's like any kind of relationship you have with a woman or a friendship, like you have to be able to break that down to literally just between you and that other person. Like everything else outside of that, like what someone else is even saying or giving their opinion on, right. Granted, you can take that in, you can listen, you can think about it, but then it's like you have to think like, okay, like for me, like, all right, I'm Eddie. Here's what I've been through. This is what I think. And this is what I got to decide. And I have to decide for me. I can't decide because even, like I say, even the strongest influences in your life, whether it was family, parents, an ex-partner, you have to break away from that and say, what do I think and what do I believe? And you have to keep flexing that muscle. You have to keep building that muscle up.
So essentially establishing something that works for you.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, regardless of what's going on an external environment.
Yeah.
Okay, that's real. That's real. Yeah, no, I would dang, that's good. I ain't gonna lie, that's good. That's good. Oh man, no, for real. I would say, if I had to give advice to someone who's trying to avoid overthinking, but not trying to oversimplify things too, is to constantly reflect. Yep. I think if you're constantly reflecting, you can easily refine something to get it to be as efficient as possible, whether that's your mental process, whether that's something you're building or whatever. I would just say, and that comes back to being intentional. If you take away all of these subconscious things you do, picking up your phone, talking to whoever, the things you do without any real voluntary input, you can have more control over how things go. Right. So my advice would be to anyone is just to reflect, man, as much as you can, as much as possible.
I like that, man.
Shoot, I'm trying to. This is a good conversation, bro.
Nah, for sure. Well, with that said, second episode of Authentic Aim. Your boy Eddie, my boy G right here, and we'll catch y'all on the next one.
Peace.